Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton, and I am very glad you joined us today. So, on the phone, we are talking to a very interesting individual. His name is Henry Lawson. He is the co founder of a company called Autograph, and the website is autograph.me if you want to check it out while you're listening. Autograph essentially builds or uses AI to build profiles for people, and we'll get into that. It's a little tricky, but Henry does a nice job of breaking it down for us. But it's opt-in marketing. So they're working with big brands to essentially get consumers to opt into their marketing through these, user-generated profiles. So companies raised about $13 million and based in Seattle. A company started back in 2011. I don't have the employee count off the top of my head, but it's somewhere between 11 and 50 according to Crunchbase. But I'll ask Henry that in a second. And I guess let's welcome him to the show now. Henry, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Great to speak to you.
So what is the employee headcount right now?
We are 17 right now.
Okay, cool. And
split across two offices.
I was just going to say, yeah, you're in Seattle, but it looks like you guys have an office in London as well.
That's right. No, we only open offices in rainy places. No point going anywhere else.
Which office opened up first?
No, Seattle. We are very much a Seattle-based company. So, all the headquarters, all the engineering is done in Seattle. And actually, we've got a good Seattle client base, as well as the rest of the U.S.
And then we
opened in London pretty much immediately.
Okay. How did you guys settle on Seattle as your home base?
Well, I've done transatlantic business all my life. I ran a company which is now known as MediaOcean, but it was called Donovan Data Systems in the sort of 2000s. So I've done transatlantic business all my life and started looking for a company that fitted Autograph's thesis. And then I found Brian and Tom, and we decided to actually found that business. And so it happened that Brian and Tom were in Seattle, so it was okay. Let's do that. Let's deliver Seattle. Let's start in Seattle. And Seattle's a wonderful place to live. It doesn't rain all the time. That's just to keep too many people away. So we've ended up building the business very much in Seattle, which is actually a hub of AI and great technical talent. And that's what we've been able to successfully build.
Well, I can argue if you're going to start a company, doing it in a rainy place isn't the worst idea since it keeps your employees inside, versus you go start a company in San Diego or Miami where it's beautiful outside every day. Good luck keeping your employees inside working hard. So
well, that's true. That's absolutely true. And the corollary, my chairman Tom Huseby actually did say to me, look, get on and make sure people are working really hard, but between Memorial Day and Labor Day, just expect that people have seen so little sunshine that when there's blue sky during those few months that they will spend a little bit of time further away from work. So there's definitely a trade-off both ways, but it's we're quite used to that.
So I tried to give a description of what Autograph does in the introduction, and I probably didn't do the best job. So why don't you give us a description of what the company does in your own words?
Sure. So essentially, we are specialists in user-generated profiles where the consumer is actually driving the profile that's used for their marketing. We do that through marketing AI that we have built ourselves and a pretty substantial data asset that lies behind that. And that enables the new world of opt-in marketing. Marketing has been through a lot of transitions over the years, particularly recently where we've moved towards, obviously, digital marketing. But now that digital marketing, which has primarily been driven by third-party data and opt-out marketing, where essentially you receive the message unless you actively choose not to. And the vast majority of people are passive. What now is happening is that you really have to opt in to get the message. That is, the opt-out world is increasingly becoming unreasonable, is seen as actually spying on the consumer, and in many cases, both by the FTC in the US as well as by the European Union with the General Data Privacy Regulations, is becoming illegal to actually chase people unless they've actually opted into to being targeted. So we've got a very powerful message, which is essentially that you can build opt-ins by giving the consumer control. And that's the fundamental mantra behind Autograph is to give the consumer control of their marketing data.
I mean, I think everything that you said is making total sense. I mean, we are living in a world where people are more and more concerned about their privacy and, who has their information and how they're using it, or are they selling it? So, I think this is the way the world is going. Now, are you guys more focused on acquiring clients or marketing to the consumers, or are you guys acquiring the clients and it's the clients that are then marketing to the consumers?
So we tend to, the big, B2C plays, the business to consumer plays, can easily consume very large amounts of money, $100 million plus amounts of money. We have focused ourselves on doing B2B2C, so essentially equipping our commercial clients, which are anything from mobile carriers through retailers, through retail shopping malls, through all sorts of financial services companies, both banks and insurance. And essentially equipping them to be able to have that conversation with the consumer. Essentially turning around and saying, you, the commercial company, have a black box of marketing data. What you need to do is to put a dashboard on the outside of that and a steering wheel and let the consumer drive it. And it's got lots of ramifications when you do. When you do, the consumer actually is much more trusting of you. When you do, the consumer is actually about 10 times more likely to add more data than take data away, much less likely to opt out. And then the real kicker, which is that they are between 4 and 10 times more likely to respond to a message that's based on that profile than they are to one that you've found somewhere by just looking at their web browsing history or some other measure in which the consumer has had no visibility and no involvement. So we build phenomenal marketing results because consumers actually trust the marketing that's coming to them.
Now, what type of information or data is going into these profiles? That's, from the consumer standpoint, is it, name? Is it geographic location? Is it age? Is it income? Or is it their, likes and dislikes and whatnot?
None of the above. Not a single one of what you just described. So no, what we do is we actually provide the consumer, we create a very game-like experience where the consumer basically just has the action of taking a tile on the screen and moving it up if they like it and down if they don't like it, which is an action we call swoting, which is swipe voting. Now, that action can be on a tile which could be a brand. It's on a tile that could be a TV program or a movie or a celebrity. And that action of moving that tile on the screen, we take, and using our artificial intelligence, we understand through a combination of data and algorithm, we're able to actually build a 5,500 dimensional neural net from those actions. And so we're able to actually say, okay, well, you only moved tiles on the screen that are related to these half a dozen companies, but we are able to build a 5,500 dimension profile as a result. And that process not only is incredibly valuable for our commercial clients, but it's also incredibly intriguing for the consumer. So, I'll ask you the question. Have you ever turned to the back of Cosmo and you've taken that little Cosmo quiz where it sort of asks you a series of questions with ABC answers, and if it's all A, then you're this kind of person, and all B, you're this kind of person, and all C, you're this kind of person? And don't tell me you haven't, Jonah, because I know you have.
A stack of Cosmos right next to me.
Right, exactly. And the boys have just as much as the ladies have. But the simple answer is it's that intriguing self-actualization, self-discovery that people want, and that's what we provide. But that very self-actualization provides a moment of intrigue, a moment of understanding, a moment of self-understanding that provides the environment for people to say, yeah, you can use that profile. I've got nothing to fear of that. Whereas so much of what goes on in digital marketing today is a closed black box, and consumers are increasingly suspicious of that black box.
Right, because they don't really know what's in the black box.
Correct.
I mean, I've said this for years when I log into Facebook, into the desktop, and there's all these ads on the right hand side, and none of them really have anything to do with my interests or my hobbies or my buying patterns. And that's where ads, I think, have to get smarter. I mean, is
Yep.
that part of the play with Autograph?
100%. But what people have discovered, and I think that the straw that's broken the camel's back in digital marketing is retargeting,
Right.
where you go on to a well-known e-commerce website, look at red shoes, and then those red shoes follow you around the internet for the next couple of weeks.
Everywhere.
And that's opened up the consumer's eyes to, hang on, I really am being spied on here. And the net result is that they're aware, and so at the moment, unless you give control back to the consumer, anything that's very specific and very personal is creepy. If you give them back control, it stops being creepy. It becomes trustworthy. It becomes useful. It becomes helpful. And most importantly, it becomes unscary. And that's what we're aiming for.
So what's an example of one of your clients and maybe how they've used Autograph to connect better with their customers?
One of the great examples we cite very widely is a very prestigious shopping street in London called Regent Street. You're based up near Boston, so you'll know Newbury Street in Boston, or Fifth Avenue in New York, or Rodeo Drive in LA. Essentially, think about those streets. Essentially, if you ping people with messages as they walk past stores with the offer, and we've all heard about the Starbucks version of this. If you ping people and you get it really accurate, it's really creepy. Regent Street pings people based upon the personal profile they've created, the autograph that they've created, and it only pings them if the relevance of the message inside that store is more than 90% likely to be relevant to that particular person. That 90% threshold protects the consumer from a whole load of spurious, irrelevant, unwanted garbage, and gives them the opportunity to find out about things and experience just the 5 or 10% of things that are relevant for them on the street that day. And it's a very good example of where without the personalization technology, you can't know that the message you're sending is relevant. With personalization technology that the consumer has provided to you, you can be absolutely sure that your message is relevant. And that's the distinction. And as I say, they are very, very, they've been very clear about what they've been able to do. Vodafone similarly has been very clear about what it's been able to do. We have another carrier example in the US, which unfortunately I can't talk about what the carrier is, but they have a weekly offers program that they've been able to target much more accurately using Autograph user-generated profiles in a way that has led to zero, and I mean zero, complaints about that targeting being too personal or too close. And those are the kinds of things that we're up to.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Joule and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Joule, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at joule.net. That's JOOL.net. Now, when you started the company in 2011, were you doing then what you are now, or did things change over time?
Absolutely. What Autograph is following now is exactly the thesis we started in 2011, and what's coming to pass in 2017 is what we always predicted would happen, which makes us sound really smart. The difference is that we predicted it would happen in 2014, not 2017.
Hey, better. So you're a little early, but still right.
Yeah, well, as my chairman says, Henry, better to be 3 years too early than 3 years too late. And while that's true, I think the thing that I've learned, this is my first startup, Brian and Tom, well, Brian's third and Tom's umpteenth. But in my case, the thing I've learned is that everybody says, as a startup, you need loads of money. I'm here to sit there and tell you, you kind of need loads of money, but the biggest enemy of a startup is actually time more than money, is the length of time that major companies take to make decisions. And, for them turning around and delaying it by another quarter or delaying it by a month or delaying that meeting by a couple of weeks doesn't sound like a lot. But as a startup, your net cash flow, your net burn, 2 weeks of your net burn is meaningful, is actually significant. And that's the biggest thing I've learned about startups is time is the enemy. Not money, time.
Now, how did you find Brian and Tom? I mean, they're both very seasoned entrepreneurs. How did you guys all come together?
They are. So essentially, another Voyager company, the CEO of another Voyager company I'd got to know very well. Voyager's one of the major VCs in Seattle. I'd got to know them very well, and as I got to know Cavario, as it was then known, well, I got an introduction from that CEO, Russ Mann, to Voyager, and Tom was a venture partner at Voyager. And when Tom and I met, essentially Tom said, okay, Henry, you know all about advertising through your experience with Donovan. I know all about mobile. I'll do you a trade. You teach me about advertising. I'll teach you about mobile, and that's what we've played ever since. Nice. Oh, and incidentally, go and see this guy Brian Roundtree, because you guys are going to figure something amazing out here, and sort of the rest is history in that sense.
So when did you guys raise your first round of capital?
First round was raised. I mean, we actually really started up properly, bootstrapped during 2011, and then we actually raised our first round of capital during 2012.
Okay, and it looks like that was a decent sized round, about 4.7 million.
That's right.
Okay, and let's see, your investors look like Voyager, Rally, and Alliance of Angels.
That's correct.
Okay, they looks like they've been in all the rounds.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, Seattle has an amazing startup community, and actually the Alliance of Angels, which is a sort of angel investing group, is probably the leading angel investing group in the country, and has been a phenomenal support for us. And as have Voyager and Rally.
Now, you've raised a bunch of money. The team is still pretty lean at 17, if I remember correctly. How have you been able to keep the team so lean?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is they are really, really good people. I mean, I would put one of our engineers up against half a dozen of many companies. They are superb. And secondly, we've actually exploited, because we work on both in across 8 hours of time zone. The reality is that everybody actually works some very strange hours, and by strange I mean long hours. So it's amazing what happens. You can actually get 16 hours a day out of people if you actually have them spread across 8 time zones.
Right.
And that makes me sound like a slave driver, but I do just the same myself, I promise.
Who's in London? What type of people is it?
So we've got salespeople and installation engineers and some content people. So we do a little bit. Sometimes we'll actually get involved in the content creation side to make sure the content that we're actually providing for a client is up to as it should be.
Now, if I remember correctly, Seattle area has Amazon and Boeing and Microsoft and who else? Starbucks, but it's also a big startup hub. So when you guys are looking at recruiting, what is your strategy in the Seattle area? Are you trying to find talent at other startups, or find talent at those big companies, or?
So we actually have a really simple philosophy at Autograph. We tend to hire less for positions, for a specific position, than we look for just the best people. And so we are forever looking for really good people, and we've got a philosophy that you bring a really good person into the company, and they will add value in a series of different places. And that's actually much more important than saying, look, this is the perfect person for this slot. Because one of the things that happens in a startup is that the slots change radically over time. And by bringing somebody in for a specific slot, they can end up being actually wrong because that slot will change its shape over the course of time. Whereas we're able to bring in really, really good people, and really, really good people are thoroughly adaptable to new positions and different places. So that's the difference with what we do. We bring great people in and then worry about what they're going to do.
What is your sales process or sales strategy? Since you guys do work with so many large, Fortune 500 type clients, how do you get in front of them?
So a couple of things. I mean, there's an awful lot of use of personal contacts. We also have various partnerships and appear at various events. So I was, for example, at the Forrester Consumer Marketing event in New York on Thursday and Friday. So we appear at different events, and we also use a certain number of partners. So there are partners that are carefully selected who very much share our philosophy, and we basically bring those partners on in. We show them what we're up to, and then those partners actually sell Autograph alongside their underlying their existing products, and that partnership has worked very well.
How long does it take to integrate your technology into what they're doing?
Oh, that's the easy bit. So the answer is about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
How long does it take to get a large company to actually sign the contract?
Right.
That's more like 4 to 6 months.
Well, okay. That's still not too bad. I mean, yeah. And you have a pretty good sales team. I mean, I assume they're doing a lot of outbound calls.
Yep, they're doing a lot of outbound calls, and an awful lot of shaking in the tree. What's interesting is actually, I think there's a general sort of view that mobile carriers are very slow to deal with, and I would argue that that's probably true, but they're not as slow as financial services companies. And then on the flip side, media companies and retailers tend to be faster. So we do not. But once you've got a mobile carrier or once you've got a bank, you tend to actually have a very long-term, multi-year relationship with them.
How long have you guys? What's your longest running client as of now?
About 5 years.
Wow. Okay, that is a long time.
Yeah.
Who is the right contact person, or who are these sales reps targeting at companies? Is it someone in the marketing group?
It's a great question. So yes, it tends to be somebody in the marketing group, although increasingly we find that we also have a very willing audience in the chief legal officer, chief information officer, chief data officer, chief compliance officer, because as these changes become regulatory more than just marketing choices, that it becomes something where we become more and more relevant for a different group of people. And actually what we found is that the CEO of many companies is actually a great place for us because now, of course, that's not necessarily easy to get to. But we've actually found that CEOs are actually a great source for us because the CEO is fundamentally the person who's actually wanting to change the relationship with consumers inside a business. Relatively junior marketing people are executing the marketing plans that have been given to them by people above them, whereas the CEO is typically worrying about getting a much better relationship with their consumer. They know how important that is, and that's where we can specifically help them.
How many profiles have been generated through Autograph? Are you guys able to share that number?
It's a very large number, but it's in excess of 1 million.
Okay, that's a good number.
And that's what we call, for our AI and data, that's what we call our training set. And the wonderful thing about our the way in which we've actually built the product is that our training set is used across clients. So we actually use our insights across clients to build new relationships, and we can actually look at new correlations, looking at what's happened across our client base, and that's really, really important because it means that we can actually learn all sorts of things related to a cross correlation between two different brands or between an interest and a brand, and we can apply that in the UK, in the US, in a multitude of different industries, and that's pretty significant.
How big can that number get? How many profiles do you hope the Autograph's able to generate over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, we'd like to be in a position where there are actually 1 billion profiles out there.
Wow.
It's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's Google, Facebook type numbers really. It's really about actually the number of first world adults out there who are receiving marketing messages. That's the scale.
And that's marketing messages on their phone, through text, through email, anything.
But also we affect the emails that they receive. We actually influence the advertising that they receive, because the advertising that they receive is based upon the profiles that are created, the audience of profiles that are created for that particular commercial client.
Right.
So it's much bigger than that. It really does affect people's lives.
I mean, since Facebook is becoming one of the biggest advertising platforms in the world, when would they be able to integrate your technology, or are they sort of is it a competitive technology?
That's a very interesting question. It's rather competitive because the two leading players in the industry, both Google and Facebook, kind of use the leverage they have, or at least use as leverage the dominant share that they have. And they obviously, as a share of advertising, they do. The pair of them, it is a duopoly. They have a huge share. So actually, alternative data sources which they do not control, because clearly both Google and Facebook do control their data sources, alternative data sources that they don't control are competitive to them rather than being complementary to them. That said, as we move into a world where you need to take that black box of marketing data and give power back to the consumer, both Google and Facebook have to think very seriously about how they do that. Facebook provides that in the form of a fire hose, if you ask, in certain markets anyway. That was thanks to a German, I don't know if you remember, but the case where the German guy turned around and said, I want you to give me everything that Facebook, I want you to give me everything that you've ever had about me. And Facebook was forced by the European courts to actually provide a fire hose of data back to the guy. And in the case of Google, in Google, you can Google ad preferences, and you will find the ad preferences that apply to you and what's on your Chrome browser and what's in your Google Plus and so on. But it's purposefully put in a place that's actually rather hidden and in a place that's difficult to find. That all of those pieces mean that these, both Facebook and Google they know where the direction this is going, but they've got difficulty in actually making that happen. They're very worried about making that happen. And what we've proven is that when you do open up and put the consumer in control, you get 10 times more data than added than is deleted, and you get between 4 and 10 times higher marketing results because the consumer trusts why that particular very, very specific message was delivered to them at that time.
Right. I mean, I know marketing and advertising is not going away. So if I'm going to see it, I at least want it to be tailored to my, my interests and, especially if it's e-commerce. And now, like on Facebook, more and more of these video ads are popping up. So you watch a video, 20 seconds into it, there's an ad, and 80% of those ads are completely irrelevant to me. And I just feel like they have to get smarter.
And that's despite Facebook supposedly having a completely intimate portrait of you,
right?
Based upon what Facebook and WhatsApp and everything else knows.
And I've wondered, Snapchat, right? Snapchat, obviously, $25-30 billion valuation. How are they going to justify it? It's going to have to be through advertising. But, I go through my Snapchat story, and when I see these ads, it's for, like these little teenage movies, or it's Abercrombie and Fitch, which I haven't shopped there in 15 years. And, so I feel like those ads have to get smarter. Otherwise, the advertisers don't really see the ROI to keep advertising. So
I totally agree.
All needs to get smarter. So I can see that's the direction you guys are heading. What's been the biggest challenge over the last 5 or 6 years for the company?
I think, to be honest, I think our biggest challenge is I sort of referred to a bit earlier is time. It's just how long the decisions take. That and getting people to actually make decisions inside these major corporations, and then actually getting that implemented, getting the signature on the piece of paper. That has been our biggest challenge, and frankly continues to be our biggest challenge. The velocity of a startup is just out of sync with the philosophy of an awful lot of
Right.
large companies.
I agree. Startups try to move a lot faster than big companies are willing to move.
Yes, exactly.
What else can you share with us about your journey over the last 5 or 6 years building this company? Do you have any favorite moments or worst moments or best hires, any of that stuff?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest moment of pride in any startup is actually getting your first revenue check, and that really does make it worthwhile. But I think the most important thing that I've seen over the course of the last 6 years, and when you bear in mind that of our 17 people, about 6 of them were with us in 2011. So this is a group of people who are here for the course, and this is a team of people that have got to know each other incredibly well. Is a very tightly knit team, and that is fantastic and just wonderful to work with. But you're also running the business. You have to make sure that culture is open to new people coming in and joining that as well. Otherwise, you will always be whatever the founders, whatever the starting, the first team is, the original team. You'll only really always be the original team, and that's not a good idea. You need to always have a culture that's open to new people and new ideas coming in. And it's amazing how quickly even a relatively fast-moving, agile organization like a startup can actually end up with its own mores and its own values and its own norms. And you have to, as the CEO, you have to keep challenging that the whole time.
I was about to ask you the culture question, but you kind of jumped in there and answered it for me. So that's important for any startup, right? I mean, especially when you're a small team, you got to have the right culture and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
What are some of the apps that you guys use to communicate with each other better? Do you use Slack?
Yeah, fundamentally we're a Slack shop.
Yeah, it seems like everyone uses Slack.
Slack is huge. Slack is huge. Email's still very important, but Slack is huge.
Probably even more important when you have people in 2 different offices in different time zones.
That's true. Where it's not simultaneous. But I think the other one is the piece of software that's often forgotten about that actually works really well is called beer. We have an office in Seattle opposite a brewery, and it's really important that people get to have some downtime together as well, because as we all know from meetings, conferences, everything else, having that downtime is the time when people really start thinking about new and different things, where the pressure's a little bit off, rather than in the formal environment.
Now, I'm sure when you pitch venture capitalists and they decide to put money into the company, the question always comes up, what is the long-term plan here, or what's the exit strategy? Can you share any of that with us? I mean, are you guys hoping to build an independent company that's going to IPO someday, or is this an ideal acquisition target somewhere in the future?
No, I mean, this transition from opt-out to opt-in marketing is taking place at a rate, and there are quite a few companies that are quite significantly threatened by that, because they already run third-party data businesses, they already run marketing automation platforms, they already run agency groups, they already run all sorts of other elements of that world. And from time to time, we do get inbound interest. We've not taken any on, but we do get inbound interest from people who are interested in actually learning more about Autograph and potentially, quote unquote, partnering with us. And so I would expect that at some point, one or more of those are going to turn around and say, we would really like to think about how we can make you part of our organization, rather than us growing to an IPO and becoming a public company.
Right.
That would seem unlikely in the current environment.
Okay, perfect. No, that's a good answer. Well, Harry, that's pretty much all I got for you today. Any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
No, that's brilliant. I mean, the old adage that in startups that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is never more true than it is today. And so anyone out there who's actually building startups, I would just recommend just keep going. Because suddenly it's amazing how quickly the clouds clear and there's suddenly sunlight overhead. And that really does build you and sustain you for the next day. So I'd encourage people to keep at it, keep the nose to the grindstone.
I remember an interview with the founder. I can't remember who it was. He was on stage speaking at a conference, and he basically said, it took us 5 years to become an overnight success. Essentially the first, just so all the hard work that goes into it, the dedication that doesn't necessarily get noticed or appreciated, until you're actually successful. So
yes.
It sounds like you guys are on the right track, and I look forward to staying in touch with you. And if anything big happens in the future, feel free to come back and tell us about it.
We will absolutely look forward to doing so.
And what's the best way for us to obviously learn more about the company? Be Autographme.
Yep.
Are you personally on any social media?
Yes, I am. So on Twitter is HL777.
Okay.
And but the best way always to get a hold of me is email, and that's henry@auto-graph.com.
Okay.
Or henry@autograph.me.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks, Henry. Really appreciate it, and take care and come back anytime.
Thanks a lot, Jonah. Appreciate it.
You got it,
Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye.